you ready?
Well, that's good. All kinds of shit. We can have a good.
Just get the recorder on.
Okay, and call the meeting, the Monday, September 22nd, 2014, meeting of the Finance Advisory and Audit Committee to order. Roll call, please.
Sure. Chair Virginia Standish.
Here.
Vice Chair Cheryl Miller.
Here.
Committee Member Lon Chu.
Good.
Committee Member Ken Johnson.
Present.
And new Committee Member Anita Kane.
Present. Yes, first of all, can we take a moment to welcome Anita? Would you like to tell us about yourself?
Sure.
Just a little bit.
Okay, my name's Anita Kane, and I'm a longtime resident of the Western Communities. I own a school in Wellington, a private school, and very interested. I started attending meetings about a year ago, town council meetings, and I'm very interested in making a difference in the community.
And I understand you have a good background for this kind of thing?
I do. When I was in my second year of law school, crying every day, trying to decide what I wanted to do with my life, because I knew I really didn't want to be a lawyer. I was offered a job as a business manager of an international corporation that I was working for, actually bartending for, on my way through law school. And the editor said, "How'd you be a really good business manager?" So that was sort of how I got my feet wet doing that. And then left that business after 7 years and moved to Florida and worked for a school here for 2 years down in Palm Beach, and then decided to just open my own, and so here I am, that many years later.
Well, we're happy to have you. Yes.
Very good. Welcome.
Thank you.
Now, we have to warn you that, we enjoy a good debate on this committee.
Okay.
We try and keep it civil.
I'm ready, and I know the rules of debate. Law school did teach me that, so there you go.
There you go.
That's good.
There's a comrade.
You had a new adversary.
Okay. Let's see. Like to approve the agenda.
Education place. It's in the original one.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are any opposed? Your motion passes 5-0. Let's see, there is no, should we have a little discussion right, well, we don't, what do we have in here? Just the consent agenda? So really any discussion, right? So really at this point, there's no discussion, nothing to discuss. We can move on to the
Item number 3.
Yeah, everyone fine with that? Moving on to item number 3, there's really nothing to discuss.
Okay. Well, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Just to recap, and go back and give you some history. At the September 2nd meeting, under my management report, I had indicated to the council, it was an update, Mr. Burns and I were both there, and we indicated at that time that the chamber had proposed 3 options. One was an outright sale, one was a lease with an option to buy, and one was a straight lease. And after much discussion, council decided that they wanted to look more closely at a lease with option to buy. In that discussion, they did talk about then also getting input from the FAAC as it related to the lease with option to buy and just in general. So we really have to hustle to try to get this special meeting, and that's the reason for it happening tonight. However, since that time, Mr. Burns has also continued to refine and rework proposals to the town council. And he has, and I want to obviously clear up one misunderstanding. I know you were told, I think there was, the word proposal was being floated, and I was indicating that we don't have a proposal, what we have is an email with options. And I think that got lost, and that's the reason why, because I know some of you were concerned, well, do we have a proposal to look at? There is no proposal on the table yet. There are several options. Mr. Burns is here, he has a PowerPoint presentation that he would like to present to you. But I think in the final analysis, what town council is really looking for, they value the input of this board. And I think they're looking for you to just give them some general advice as it relates to, number one, that lease with option to buy vehicle. But number two, based upon what you're going to hear from Mr. Burns tonight, whether there is any other input that you would like to give council. We have this scheduled for tomorrow night. It's scheduled as an update and discussion of the chamber building. And we are briefing the council members on these options, so they will be prepared tomorrow night to discuss when we have this update. And Madam Chair, unless you have any questions, with your
Yes,
permission,
I
I'd
have
like to go to
questions.
Mr. Burns.
Questions and a statement. First of all, as you know, I am adamant about government transparency. And with something like this, I would have expected to see their lease information in writing for the public. And I would have expected to see their lease with the county showing proof that they are authorized to do this. I would have expected to see our lease, which I know we can look up on the website, but for consistency, I'm just saying, we should have had our lease in here, we should have had their lease with the county, which is all available in here. I hope they could have given us expenses of what it cost to maintain. I believe there was information that could have been produced to the town and presented. Obviously, this didn't just happen overnight, so I am disappointed, and I certainly hope that everyone here looks at this very seriously and just does not look at this as a rubber stamp option to appease certain members of the town council.
Okay. Thank you.
Matt?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to review this evening, and some of you may know who I am. I'm Wayne Burns. I'm the CEO of the Central Palm Beach County Chamber of Commerce. And I don't so much as have a PowerPoint presentation as I wanted to share with you the numbers and how the numbers break out. As Mark pointed out, we started out looking at just two sets of numbers. The first one being an option that was meant to respond to the council's desire to see what a lease with option to buy would look like. And so we went ahead and just provided what those numbers look like. So a couple of things. First, I want to share this. There was a comment just made, and I appreciate that, by the chair regarding the lease with the county. So just for the public record, the lease with the county is clear. Anything that we do with this building has to be approved by the county. But I'll also say this, the county will look at a genuine deal on the table, not hypotheticals, because they're not in the mood, I don't believe, from what I understand, to look at what about this, or what if this happens, or what if we decide to do that, and then give us approval. What they like to see, and we know this when we put the lease together with them, is that they like to see us come forward with a hard deal in hand, and certainly they understand the caveat from the would-be lessor or buyer would be their approval. So that's basically what we'd be asking council to do. That's the only way that I believe the county would be willing to look at a change in the lease agreement. So that's why we don't have a lease with language that says you're approved, because that is a catch-22. We're going to bring them an opportunity if the town council decides to go with this as an opportunity, and the opportunity, of course, will have a caveat that is based on the county's approval. If they don't approve it, we got nothing. So that's basically where we're at in terms of the lease. In terms of the expenses certainly can easily be laid out. For grounds, we're responsible for this space right around the building. We're not responsible for the county park. So light bill, water bill, that's a pretty easy thing to accommodate.
Excuse me, how much land goes with them?
Right now it's 1.3, I believe, 1.3 acres. Mark, I know you were doing research.
1.32.
1.32 to be exact.
You don't have the FAPA listing?
pop listing won't show it broken out, it shows it with the whole county park.
which is 30 acres.
Doesn't show the building?
Shows the building, but doesn't show the acres. I thought
Doesn't
it
show
was-
what 1.32 acres go with this.
Right.
Okay.
So the 1.32 acres that were part of our lease agreement gave us the opportunity to use parking, the space in the front, grass in front and behind the buildings, which we've used on a regular basis. Certainly if there was a desire to ask the county for more than that, we would certainly include that in the initial discussion. So our starting point for this, just to look at a quick bit of history, is we got an appraisal back in March from a local appraisal company, Anderson & Carr, and they gave us an appraisal letter dated March 16th, a $630,000 market value based on their appraisal. So when we originally approached the city, we thought that an ideal opportunity and one that the county would be most likely to approve was if we approached some of our local municipalities and offered them an opportunity to consider buying the building, because we felt like it serves the public use, the public good, and that would be something that the county might be more interested in than if we, let's say, went to them and offered them an opportunity to sell this to a private investor. And we also felt that the community doesn't really gain if we sell it to a private investor, and it's really a whole different kind of opportunity that we felt like wouldn't really hit the highest and best use. But a public use opportunity to bring that to the county, asking Loxahatchee Groves if they would consider that, we felt like it was a win-win. So that's really the direction that we took this in. So that's where we started. And so we talked about that and came back with some numbers. And the lease with the option to buy, just quite simply, this is the actual email that I sent to Mark after that council meeting with the numbers. The first option, I apologize for the small font, but it's very, very straightforward. $5,500 a month rent, triple net, 36-month term, which is what they were asking for.
What was with that?
Triple net means that you pay for the maintenance expenses, you pay for the taxes, but you don't have any because you're government. That's triple net, is you cover the expenses of the building.
Expenses, insurance, and taxes.
Tax tag and title.
Tax tag and title, that's
So
right.
it's 5,500 plus additional costs.
And there's no initial consideration, there's just the lease amount?
There is. The initial consideration, originally, we talked to some real estate folks. If this was a commercial transaction on this type of building, the initial consideration would probably be somewhere around $100,000. And they even thought that was probably a low number if this was a private sector deal. But again, understanding it's government, $30,000 is the option for this, and that $30,000, if the purchase transaction was executed, would apply to the purchase price. The second one, I thought that it would still be worthwhile to put that forward, so we went with the same monthly amount, $5,500 triple net, 60-month term, and the reason why we went that route is if it was going to be rented, we're a little bit less sensitive about the term. If it's going to be purchased, there's two key issues. One is we don't want to lock up the building indefinitely. Two, in the charter, Loxahatchee Groves cannot carry debt, and the attorney at that council meeting was reading, or paraphrasing the charter, I should say, and the paraphrase was if it's 36 months or less, then having any kind of assumed note, let's say we were due financing, we would hold paper, anything like that would still fall within the charter and meet the requirement, wouldn't be considered debt. In this case, an option to buy is according to the attorney for Loxahatchee Groves, is not debt at all. It's actually like purchasing a security. It's like purchasing futures on the stock market. It is not considered a debt instrument.
Excuse me, the
Yes.
option, explain what happens with the money spent on the option. Do you retain that, or it's returned if we choose not to?
Oh, no.
No.
If you choose not to, it's retained.
Yeah.
If you
So-
choose to, it's applied to the
So it's not
purchase price.
necessarily like a security, well, it's like a security, you lose it.
Well, it's like buying futures on the market. So if, you know, I mean, in security or futures, it can go up, it can go down, it can disappear. So basically, that's an option. You're buying an option to buy something in the future. If you don't execute, the cost of the option is just at its cost. So we wanted to come forward with a lease opportunity as well, recognizing that there may be sensitivity to buying an option. We totally understand. And also looked at doing a 60-month term instead of a 36-month. That would give Loxahatchee Groves a lot more time to consider if they wanted to come back in 5 years, get an appraisal at that time, make an offer or not. So we just felt like that was an option still worth coming forward with. So it would be a standard lease agreement, just like any rental.
An outright sale would be for the same amount, or would there be lesser price for an outright sale?
An outright sale would be for the same amount.
Same amount.
Yeah. So,
That amount is not set in stone.
what's that?
That 630 is, this is just a hypothetical, or are you saying that's the selling?
That's based on his.
Well, that's based on the
That's
appraisal we
one
got this year.
appraisal.
I mean, it's appraisal
That's
630,000.
what exactly what I'm saying, because that is just based on an appraisal that is not one that the town acquired. So that number is not set in stone.
Right, I mean, there's nothing set in stone. It's just an email communicating information that the council wanted to have considered. So there's.
Excuse me, do you have any
Sure.
pass outs for us on any of this that you're going to present?
I'd be happy to develop pass outs, what I'm about to show you. I can put it in the summary sheet, probably makes the most sense.
Okay.
But I'm gonna share with you some underlying detail behind these numbers.
Okay.
Because I wanted to do some of the due diligence that I would think anybody would want to do in terms
How
of.
many square feet does this go?
39, I'll tell you exactly what it is. 3,953 square feet. So before we go into some of the detail, what I did is I first looked at some of the local real estate in and around the area, because I wanted to know for sure myself what that local real estate looked like. And as you all probably know, first, there's not a lot of options in the general vicinity. In fact, if you wanted to just lease space, professional space, that you would feel good about for your town, for your citizens, there's the building across the street, which is advertised at $18.50 a square foot. So for the square footage here, it comes out to about $6,100, $6,200 a month, and then they build a suite, so that's just your 4 walls. So you're probably looking at $100,000 plus build-out price. The second space is Groves Medical Center, and that's $20+ a square foot, also build a suite. So you're probably looking at really holding costs on that, probably about $7,000 or $8,000 a month. So couldn't find a freestanding building. I gotta believe it's more than buying a second floor office space and having it built with partitions and drywall and doors, etc. So that was we wanted to look at the comparison, and I just printed that tonight. It came off of LoopNet. We also looked at land, and so we looked at similar sized sites. It's hard to get an exact comparison, but I did find a site for 2 acres for $439,000 for the land. So we thought that was reasonable enough, and again, I just printed that off of LoopNet. You can.
That's a commercial site?
That
That
is
commercial land?
Folsom Farms, faces Folsom Road, 2 acres, this property. Again, there's only 4 total. The building over here, the medical center, and 2 pieces of vacant land. That's all that comes up on LoopNet when you search the area. That's it.
But again, we're not purchasing land with this building, it's just a building.
This is just the building.
And the use of the land from the county.
Well, it comes with,
Well,
No, you don't
what,
own the land,
You don't own the land.
it's a lease.
It's a
The
lease.
county owns land.
They
Well-
pay $1 a year for it.
we're gonna take 2 approaches with the county if the council decides to pursue this. One is, what we've seen a lot of small towns who are getting started, as this one is, asking the county for, if it's not a lifetime lease, a 99-year lease. Secondly, though, asking the county to consider deeding the property to Loxahatchee Groves. And again, if we have a firm offer in hand, we feel like we'll have a much higher success rate than if we go in there with hypotheticals for the commission. So we also did some other things. We wanted to look at, if anybody's looking at a rent versus buy option, they're going to want to look at a direct comparison. So we did just that. And we wanted to look at rent versus buy. So we took the $630,000, which you see in the bottom left-hand corner, and basically, I'll show you the numbers, how they ran. But what we came up with is, if you can rent a building for under a space for under $5,978 per month, you're better off renting the space than $630,000. So at the very least, we recognize that the $5,500, based on what we see on LoopNet, based on doing this comparison. By the way, this comes from, see the credits for this are at the end, Mark Zandi, chief economist from Moody's. So the calculator is actually online, and we just plug the numbers in the calculator. So this is a Moody's calculator comparing rent to buy. And here's some of the numbers we plugged in. How long do you plan to stay? In my mind, when Sherlock's Hatch grows as a community and as a town government, be here at least 40 years. That's the maximum I could put in there. So we put in the 40-year number. In terms of the mortgage details, obviously there's not going to be a mortgage rate. Down payment, if you do lease with option to buy, $30,000, about 5% down. And 3 years, that's a 36-month period.
What do you mean there's not going to be a mortgage rate?
What's that?
Explain there's not.
You can't carry debt, so you don't have an interest on a mortgage.
So you're looking for a straight buyout, straight cash?
No, we had offered the council to carry paper, which also wouldn't carry an interest rate. So there's no interest rate, it's zero. We also looked at some other data as part of this. Obviously, there's no taxes. There's no marginal tax rate, being government. Closing costs, we figured about 4%. Talked to a number of commercial realtors. Depending on who's doing the paperwork, you have a town attorney. It could fluctuate up or down. We looked at roughly a 3% inflation rate, but we also found with the calculator, if you move that rate up or down, it's not a major impact, not enough to make that mortgage, the rent versus the buy price different. So we looked at maintenance fees. This question came up at the beginning. So we plugged in some numbers. We figure about 5% of the purchase price. In this case, that comes out to about $31,000. Where did I get that number? I spoke to some commercial realtors. If a place is already built out, there's always about 4 or 5% that the new buyer is going to put into it to do some kind of modifications. That's where we came up with the number. It could go a little more or less, and that will be up to the Waxahachie Groves Council and this advisory group to decide what that would look like. Monthly utilities, I put $500 in. The reason why I did that is we have about $300 in electric bill. Of course, it fluctuates. $100 in water, etc. I also put in an additional $350 for other maintenance. Right now, our maintenance on the grass around this parking lot is $69 a month, I believe. But I added $300 for maintenance because who knows what kind of things you'd like to do here and how much maintenance would cost. So all of these numbers include $850 of monthly expenses.
Do you have any actuals on maintenance? I mean, how old is it building?
Built in 2010.
2010?
Mhm.
So you've had 4 years history.
Yes.
Do you have those actual numbers that you've spent?
Yeah, we can take the FPL and take the power bill and the water bill and.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be an interesting fact for us to know.
Well, that number I gave you is actually based on that rough number. It doesn't go up and down much every month. And so, and we can certainly take 12 months and calculate it, or 24 or 36. It's going to be close to that number for water and electric and I mean, you may use a heck of a lot more or a heck of a lot less. We have a lot of things going on here, as you probably would at the town. But we can give you the actual numbers. If you were Renting, we factored in 2 months security into that, which would not be unusual in a commercial lease deal. Broker, there's no broker, so we have it at 0. There's no renter's insurance because triple net, whatever the cost of insurance would be. And as government, you probably have a quite different rate than we do as a private entity. So some governments are self-insured. So I didn't factor any renter insurance because there wouldn't be any. So at $630,000, comparing buy to rent, if you can find a place under $5,900, according to Moody's, and that actually came out of an article in the New York Times, here's the credit at the bottom, Moody's Analytics and the Federal Reserve. So that's where those numbers come from. So at $5,500 a month, it's priced well within the right market price based on the appraised $630,000 that we just got this year.
Okay, so the 630 is a locked number. So if at the end of this lease option, we put 30 down to begin, so then we owe 600, is any of the 5,500, any portion of that as the lease option going to come off of the money owed at the end?
Not what we calculated right now.
And actually, it's not a locked number until we get the appraisal.
Right, well, I mean, I'm dealing with that number right now. I want an appraisal too, so, one too, actually. So.
And the other thing is, clearly, and I'm sure the attorney could advise, if the town council decided they wanted this, you think it's a good recommendation, let's say hypothetically, it's easy for the town council to say, we're going to move forward with X numbers, whatever they are, lease, buy, whatever the decision is. And there's 2 caveats. 1, the appraisal comes in at or below the amount. 2, the county agrees to what it is that we're asking for. We go to the county, deal in hand. I'll of course go to my board, get them to create a resolution based on whatever the final opportunity is. I'll go with my board resolution, town council statement from the minutes, go to the county commission, present it, and ask them to consider agreeing to the transaction. So we decided to look at this differently. I started to talk with some of my board, and we started to ponder, based on the discussions of the previous council meetings, what if we can give a price that would seem more palatable, but would still be comfortable enough for us to make the transaction. And comfort, of course, is subjective. And after a lot of discussion, we decided, here's what we really want to accomplish. We'd like to pay off the mortgage, of course. We don't want to be in the red after a transaction. We'd like to have some seed money to execute on some of the new strategic objectives that our board has put together. And just to touch on that a little bit, if no one in this room is aware, we have put together a strategic plan that is distinctly different from what this Chamber of Commerce has done in the past. In the past, we were mostly events-driven, so our business-to-consumer members, car dealerships, and others benefited greatly because we did a lot of large-scale events. You're probably familiar with Salsa Fest and Street Painting Festival and things of that nature. Moving forward, the board has decided to focus on small business, and we've put together a strategic plan that is focused on delivering services to small businesses and also working with all of the local governments in our footprint to develop a strategy to better link local governments with local small businesses and build some bridges so that we can help our local governments overcome some of the issues that they face when small businesses come forward and ask for things that are beyond what the code allows. And then we can also help small businesses get through some of those issues so that the government can maintain certain standards and those small businesses can actually still move forward with opportunities to hire people and invest capital. We also developed a visitation plan to go out and work with small businesses and identify resources that they may not be aware of that they need, whether it's in workforce development, training, grants, and other opportunities that we're aware of that we can bring to the table for small businesses. So in changing that dynamic, we have also changed our revenue stream, as you can imagine. So we're no longer getting revenue from festivals. We're actually looking to deliver small business services. So on the number, pay off the mortgage and have some seed money to move, get a new space, and also go ahead and start to execute on our business strategy. So, yes?
Excuse me, what was your initial cost on this building?
The initial cost of the building, I don't know the exact number, but I'm told it was about 750 or in that range. And the reason why I don't know the exact cost is that there were some services and other things donated at that time in the community. So there weren't dollar amounts attached to it.
All right, thank you.
Sure. So here's what we came forward with. We decided to step outside the box and hypothetically calculate a sell price of $480,000 for Lots Hatch Groves. And based on that, if you can get a rental for under $49.89 a month, then you'd be better off renting it than buying. And now remember, the parameters of that rental were based on the appraisal, square footage, type of building, and that's basically the way we work the numbers. So it doesn't say if you can go rent a small space across the street here in a single office that it's a comparable rental. If you can get a comparable space, valued at a comparable number, so find a local building, freestanding, with parking for $480,000, that would be about $5,000 a month in rent. We ran through the same numbers, we used the exact same theory with a couple of small variations. One, because you can't carry debt, we factored in 100% down. So I think someone asked earlier, yes, that would mean a cash buy. Not so much to benefit us, but Lots Hatch Groves can't go out and take a mortgage. So basically we're looking at 100% cash. We had offered before to hold some paper. We could probably do that during a 36-month period. The attorney seemed to think it was okay, but there was a whole bunch of caveats, not for us, but for the government. So just right now for numbers, I calculated 100%. Worth noting, if you look this scale up, this Moody scale, if you slide that 100% to 50%, 40%, 30%, it doesn't change the rent number. That rent number is a flat number all the way across. Same thing here, we looked at taxes. Obviously no tax for the government, no marginal tax rate for the government, 4% closing costs, same number I used previously. Basically plugged in all the same data so we can get an apples and apples comparison.
So this 480,000 that you were thinking about, this 49.89 rent, would that be something similar to the lease with option to buy, but instead of the 630 price, it's a 480 price?
If we were using 480, we would not do a lease with option to buy,
It
not a
would be
480.
Straight out.
Purchase.
Or you could do several lump sum payments over the 36
Right.
term.
So in order for us to transact the sale, at the very least, the mortgage would have to be paid and we'd have to have some money to move. So that's about $350,000.
Well, when you say in order for you to transact the sale, the mortgage does not allow you to have a tenant that could allow lump sum payments over the year, 3 years?
We could, if the city didn't want to actually formally take ownership until all the payments were made, that certainly would be fine too. That we could set it up as a lease with a lump sum payment or payments like yearly over a 3-year period. The attorney for Lots Hatch Groves seemed very serious that as long as it comes in at 35 months and 20 days or whatever the number was, it was meeting the requirement of not carrying debt. So yeah, I mean, we could try to structure it, and then at the last transaction, that would be the closing date for the purchase. I also wanted to point out, in a lease with option to buy, you may get different input, but I checked with some real estate attorneys who are not connected to the chamber, or, you know, they don't know anything about around here, just in general in the state of Florida, and in general in real estate. If you do a lease with option to buy, until you're ready to exercise the option, not only do you not need an appraisal, of course you still may want one because you want to see if the lock-in to 630 is a good price, but not only do you not need an appraisal, it could be considered a waste of money, because that's trying to say 3 years from now it would be worth less, more, who knows what it would be worth. So a lot of the folks I talked to, legal folks, said you could always put in language that says if it's less, then the chamber would have to take the lesser amount, or if it's more, the lock-in is maxed out at 630, which means Waxahachie Groves gets a win-win on both sides of the equation. I'm only saying that because it almost seems like a double hit to go out and get an appraisal now, and then if you decide a year from now to buy instead of waiting for 3, now you got to go out and get another appraisal. The appraisals are not cheap, as you know. So just looking at cost for Waxahachie Groves.
My question, my scenario, what I was not discussing was a lease.
Mm-hmm.
What I was discussing was the purchase with lump sum payments.
Right. So purchase with lump sum
Which
payments, you would
appraisal-
want to get an appraisal.
Correct.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So we also took the same numbers we used before. If you put 2 months down for security for rent, and no additional broker's fees, no additional renter's insurance. So we used the exact same data to run both numbers, and you basically came out with about a $5,000 rental if the price was at $430, and about a almost closer to $6,000 rental if the price was at, $480 versus $630. So Mark mentioned at the very beginning in his opening remarks about a proposal, and I could take the numbers that were just put in that email and put them in a single sheet of paper and put something at the top that calls it a proposal. The fact is, if you're going to buy this, the work's going to be done after you decide. Just like you buy anything. If you go buy a house, you're not going to do all the legal work and all the stuff up front and then go in and say, okay, we're going to buy your house. Okay, well, sorry, we already sold it. You go in, you're looking at houses, you look at 10 houses, you look at 10,000 houses, it's listed at $500,000. You go in and make an offer of $480. They say, we'll entertain the offer of $480. Now you sign a standard buyer's contract, and now you start with your legal work. And if you want to get an inspection, you get one. You want to get an appraisal, you get one. But the transaction is decided up front. So that's why I didn't come forward with some kind of legalese document with all kinds of stuff in the form of a formal proposal, because frankly, it's really about the numbers. If the numbers work, then we move forward together. If the numbers don't work, there's nothing to talk about. Any questions about this? I'm going to share the same data with the council tomorrow as a follow-up to that old business item, because they seemed like they wanted to hear what was going on.
You're gonna give them the same presentation?
No, I'm going to take what you just saw, since you got the benefit of seeing how I came up with those numbers,
Right.
and just put it in like a simple Excel spreadsheet and hand it out to everybody. It'll have the same exact numbers: 2 months down payment, $630,000 buy price, no broker's fees. It's just going to pull the numbers off there and put it in one single spreadsheet, compare the two, and they can see it. And give it to all of you as well, whoever's there tomorrow night. I just wanted to show you an expanded version so you could see that there was an actual industry accepted calculator being utilized to come up with the data.
We're ready. Are you finished with your presentation?
Yes, if there's any questions, otherwise.
Well, there's probably going to be questions. We just want to make sure you're finished.
Yeah, yes.
Mr. Chair.
To stop?
And then we'll do public comments also after this.
I don't think, speaking for my personal perspective, I'm not sure if we could make decision regarding, like we said, to go forward, don't go forward, because there are a lot of unknowns in equations that as an advisory committee, before we could make any advice, we need to know what they are, based on what basis. And I appreciate you using all the standard poor models and good assumption. And I think in terms of the straight out purchase price of 480, it looks very attractive to me. It's like, but you could have a 5-carat diamond selling for $50,000. Good deal, but I can only afford 500, so beyond my range. So I think it's important that we need to get input from our manager, town manager, because ultimately they're the one making the recommendation to the council. And I think without their input, their analysis, which I have a list of items that I would expect that we need to have that before we even have some basic information for us to discuss. Because a lot of the item numbers you have there are hypothetical assumption, 3%, 4%, 55, $10 a month. This is your offer. The market value in the area, these are your work. So I think that our town manager had an obligation to do their own due diligence, and many things that we need to get out from them. That I'd like to see what is their analysis, cost-benefit analysis, that this is a good deal, extremely good, let's move forward. How are we going to pay for it? Things like that. Or this is, like you said, no. When we buy a house, look at location, of course, we like to have kids and looking for the good schools. If I work in Delray, I have to drive, how much time it takes me. So there are a lot of other external factors. Right? I would assume that it will be the same for the town. There are other factors that I like to see. Something so simple as what is our cash flow situation? Can we afford using the 5-carat diamond scenario? Can we afford the cash flow? For the maintenance, how much really costs us to maintain this place? Do we really need 4,000 square feet? Other infrastructure, the telephone system, and many other things. I just hope that we could hear something from our town manager, giving us the analysis. It's strictly either, like I said, cost benefit, to buy or to lease, or do we really need to have this much of space? Why yes, why no? For the next 10 years, 15 years, 40 years. Just like how much can we afford? Do we want to pay, 480 and make 16 every payment in 3 years? Or do we pay it outright? Or do we want to pay it in 5 years? So the cash flow analysis is very important. I would like to see that. And then also appraisal, of course, we need that. The timeline for cash flow, the maintenance, appraisal, of course. The location is good. Me personally, it's very good, very convenient. The building is beautiful, and without the numbers to confirm 480 is good, I think it's a little bit premature, even for, I don't know who could present our conclusion to the council in the next meeting.
I agree as well. I think it's too swim very well, it's like jumping into water and you can't see the beginning, you can't see the end of it. It's, we need something from you guys to say, you know, if we did this, this is what would happen. Yes, it's in the budget, but it's not, you know.
We want me to go?
Pardon?
You want me to go?
Anita, no, Anita, and then we'll do public comments, then we'll do Ken. I don't know, I'm a little nervous. Mr. Retail. Anita, go ahead, please.
Well,
You get the honor.
I guess there's a lot of things that I'm in the, too many unknown factors. One thing that you said that was interesting to me is that you have a lot of things going on here. Are there people who rent space here? Is that something that can help defray our costs? Are there people that would want to stay here afterwards? You seem like your organization's very eager to leave. So clearly, you don't want to continue renting space or something back from us. I mean, I would look for situations to help defray some of the expense to see whether that opportunity or possibility exists. I don't know enough about the offices that the town hall's in now. Could those be moved over here? What are we paying over there for rent? What kind of lease are we in there? Could that rent be?
You looking at my notes?
I'm sorry, I'm not. I would want to know, could that all be shifted over here? So if we're paying $3,000 a month over here, does that come off the top of what the $5,000 is? And then that looks like kind of really like a good deal. I would never approve buying a place without land that was attached to it. So I would be completely unwilling to do it because you can get in a fight, you can get in a dispute with somebody.
And that is negotiable with the county.
Yeah, well, I understand he's saying that, but I'm just saying that's another factor that would have to be answered to me. I would have to know that we at least have the 1.32 acres from the county. I would have to have that answer. And I would actually like to see more because I know that we have a lot of equestrian interest. This is supposed to be an equestrian park. I mean, let's see what we can do. Maybe we can build some of that out here and satisfy some of those needs that people are looking for. So again, I guess I stayed in the same camp of that there's too many unanswered questions. But huge possibility. I mean, I see the possibility. I think that the 480 probably sounds like a pretty good price, but what do I know? You know, I mean, it sounds like a good deal to me, but I definitely I would look for 2 independent appraisals myself, just because that's what I do in business, so.
And that's for management and the attorney, there are legal requirements of the type of when the appraisals are needed.
Right. Okay, yes, that's really,
Well, I would agree with a couple of things here, and then I've got some questions for the management staff also. In addition to the, having 2 different appraisals, which I think is a must for us, I think we need to get a contractor, say, look at the building, they've got X amount of square feet, how much would it cost us to build a like building today on another piece of property?
That's shortly here.
Okay, that's one question. The second question is addressed to the town management. Yes, we need to know, I think, a truer picture of the potential cost of the building. Hopefully, they can get the county to come up with some arrangement to deed the land to the town. But what kind of impact will this be on our budget? In other words, will you point that to life? Large. Oh, large, oh, okay.
So it's an arm's length.
Yeah, in other words, how much would it cost us on an annual basis for the building taxes, you know, the whole ball of wax to run this place? First, the budget. 2, I've missed a couple of meetings. Where has the millage thing gone with the town council? Nothing?
No, we are at 1.5 only to get us to the next meeting, and then they anticipate possible reduction. We're between 1.5 and 1.2, maybe 1 if we can convince them as citizens.
Well, but I meant at 1.5, how much more money would that produce for us?
We would have $80,000 in contingency.
Okay.
You pay everything and have 80 to do something.
Okay.
and our capital expenditures, according to our latest tax ad, have increased by 43%,
That's accurate.
based on the budget being presented.
In other
No.
words,
Now, may I clarify the 43? There's some double counting there for governmental accounting. We're taking $1 million and counting it once in CIP, and then we're putting it in general fund, so we're counting it again. It's really,
It's a government account.
smoke and mirrors.
Very smoke and mirrors,
well, they do that on purpose.
yeah.
But it's, so we got a 2 million, that's not real. So when you say 4, I
I'm just
understand,
saying,
and
it
it is
appears in the
43.
paper, it's real government accounting.
Okay,
And we put the ad together because we're trying to be very transparent.
Right.
And it's 43, but there's really not 43% more money. The $2 million really doesn't exist.
okay, with the millage going up, if it goes up,
Yes,
that will produce how much more additional funds
it's
for?
about 80 grand.
About 80 grand. And that's about what it would cost us to pay the rent, plus utilities, I guess, I don't know, somewhere close. And the annual rental will be about 60,000 plus,
Yeah.
I don't know how much utilities.
10,000, not 10. Say it
Okay.
right.
All righty, now, currently, what's the rental cost of the place that we're in right now?
Just shy, well, it's
900.
going to
14,
change in
14.
October,
Okay.
I think.
How much?
It already changed,
Changes $14.
$14.25 a month.
40-25?
Supposed to change one more time.
How many?
Plus we have the
When you
storage
get the,
unit.
when you get the other bill.
Sir,
How big is it?
Mark,
Yeah,
we have the storage unit
about
also.
800
How much
square
is that a
feet.
month?
850.
What is the question?
We have a storage unit as well, and how much is that a month?
Office rental is $14.25, as Ms. Underwood has indicated. Storage rental is $149.
How big is it?
Not very.
129 square feet. So we are renting 929 for
Now, the offices, how many square feet are you renting?
1574.
Ooh,
I think it's about 800 to 850
Yeah.
square feet.
So we are renting.
So that's already
900
budgeted money.
So we are renting 900
We
something square feet
budgeted 15.
for
we
1574.
budgeted
Budgeted cost per
$2,000.
square
You know,
foot is what?
Yeah.
This year, we budgeted $2,000 a month for rent.
But
So that's already budgeted
That's-
out.
that's
So
included in
2,000
the
a month is
This
budgeted.
number is very important because this will be a saving for us if we decide to buy this building.
Yeah, it seems.
And I just look at my notes, there are a lot of things, like I said, I hope Mark could come up with your recommendation because we're seeing a lot of benefits of having this building. At the same time, there are other unknown that number for like maintenance.
Excuse me, do you lease any space to anyone else?
Yes, sir, we do. We actually rent space out, both the small room and the big room. We have groups like the Rotary Club, we have a number of nonprofits, Starbucks.
How much you bring in a month?
I'm gonna give you an unofficial number, so if it goes into the minutes, I'm gonna caveat it a couple times. An unofficial number, because I don't have the
Roughly,
exact
give me
number.
an estimate.
I asked my staff recently what it was running a month, because I wanted to know myself, and I was told about $1,000.
Thousands.
So I'm gonna say, it could be 400, it could be 1,500, but that's the answer.
Well, you also have the option of renting out for community, you know.
That
Community
is-
events.
Right, those are
Vendors,
typically
would those
companies
people-
affiliated with the chamber, so you have a much broader.
But would those people be willing to if new owners took over?
But that's-
They need the space, they don't care if the man in the moon owns the place, they need
There's
a
too much
place to go.
speculation.
Well, no, I mean, if they go away, that's money that we need. So-
In fact, a couple times I suggested we weren't gonna rent out the room anymore, it was like a revolt.
I think,
So they need the space.
this is a very good scenario, I think, very.
The problem is we need the, we would need the space too, also.
You would do what we do, we have board meetings, we have groups like you, so we just schedule the calendar, so if you happen to not be using the space and someone wants to use it, you can make $395 for a morning or whatever it is that they're paying.
Okay.
Our thought was if we had to make this available to the town council, you created dies, and then what you do is you bring in chairs and you can break the room down, so it would
Right.
be council chamber and then multi-purpose room for leasing, things like that.
Okay, has everyone just finished? Anyone?
You know,
Oh,
Well, you can still make, okay, I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
that's all right, I was
No,
gonna say.
you can still pipe in after they're done, it's informal here. Okay, let's start with the public, Ken, no, yeah, Keith. Keith Harris,
All right. Keith Harris, 2580 C Road.
GC.
I am a state certified general contractor. I've had a license since 1989. I would be glad to assist this committee and town management to analyze construction costs. I'm working on a similar project using the water district property as a possible site as well to have comparison. When you compare a large, serious expenditure like this, it's always good to have two things to bounce off instead of going, is this good, is this the right way, without the unknown. This property would be a jewel for our town. The VISTA guidelines, architecture meets our code criteria. It would give us a home court advantage that the town has not had since its incorporation. It will provide a good permanency for our town by having its own town hall instead of renting space and looking like a less of a quality town than we perceive ourselves to be. The medical arts building next door will complement the property. It will give us even overflow parking for some of our larger meetings. I will share with you that it is my opinion that this room needs to be altered somewhat to benefit our town council meetings. That can be simply done by blowing this wall out onto the porch. A non-bearing petition there can be knocked out. We lose the storage space, but that can be your guys for the council. You're looking at 6 or 8 chairs across here without an aisle. In our other meeting hall, we have 5 to 6 seats on each side of the aisle. So we're a little bit narrow, but we can accommodate the same quantity of the general public and town folks to be here for a meeting. To the discussion itself, the committee should consider what our rents were, which management just gave us, what the mortgage note they have on this property, recommendation for council tomorrow night. You were given information and a theoretical conceptual idea. We do have select members of town council that believe if you do not have backup, the information is unfounded. So I would be of the opinion that you do need to have a lot more consideration, a lot more information before you make any recommendation. This is a purchase for 1,200 households. It's not one couple going to look at a house and read to a broad strokes and then look at the fine print later. Your challenge as a committee is to get all the information you can so that you can make a proper and well thought out recommendation to our policy making body, our town council. Thank you for your time.
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
General cost per square foot on a commercial building, what's it running at?
That is a question that is, an answer would be very misleading because of design criteria of a structure. The prices can be varied tremendously. I have a 52-unit apartment complex under contract in Key Largo. It was bid and by 3 contractors for over $8 million. We were considered one of 2 of the 3 contractors to take the job. We did value engineering and dropped it over $300,000. It's the same structure, the same size, the same appearance, but we redesigned the structure, cost value engineering. So to sit here and say $85 a square foot, $75 a square foot, you can buy a Kia for $11,000, you can buy a Lamborghini for $300,000, they seat the same amount of people and they get the same speed limit. So square foot cost gets you in a feeling of a ballpark scenario, but to analyze it and give a better value, it would take a little bit of consideration to do some due diligence to develop a number. I don't know if that answers the question, but I don't want to give you something that's misleading.
That's fine. Does this building have hurricane shelter?
No, that is,
Those are impact glass?
impact glass,
All of them impact?
all impact glass, double pane.
Yeah,
Philomena?
yeah, Philomena, 4245, 140 Jersey. I'm just looking at it as a layperson and looking at, we are paying tax dollars and things like that. I was thinking, since you're a nonprofit and so are we, will you be leaving everything behind, like table, chairs, telephone and everything? I mean, it will be no use to you if you walk out, it is. I do, when you buy a house, are you leaving a dress, you know?
I thought there's already included.
These dice will not be any use for you if you go somewhere else, these chairs, we can still use them. I'm asking a very off the chart, but it'll be something that will sweeten the pot.
We'll take the furnishings, is what you say.
Yeah,
Throw in
we'll
the
take the
furnish-
furnishing,
And we
but
might.
as is.
6:30 furnished.
Okay. All right, I have a few questions. And Bill and Mark, you may be able to answer this. What are the building guidelines for a government building? Are there mandatory guidelines when you become a municipal building?
I have not heard of it. Yeah, I'm not aware of anything special either.
Okay, there's no mandatory guidelines for a government building.
In terms of I'm not sure what you mean in terms of guidelines. I would tell you, every
Mandatory.
government building has to meet the same code requirements as any other development.
Are you looking at
Additional,
security?
I'm looking at additional structural reinforcement due to hurricane issues, things like that. I realize Palm Beach County has its emergency buildings, but I'm wondering if there's something we need to be aware of. Again, we have so many questions we have to ask. We're looking at purchasing something that would be considered a government building. Now, I'm aware of little town halls that are just kind of little buildings, okay, and they do just fine, but I'm asking for the sake of, as Mr. Chu and the rest of the committee said, there are questions to be asked.
The only thing I'm aware of is, I know that there have been EOCs that have been built to very high standards in
Right,
order to
but
withstand
those are-
hurricane. And a good example of that is St. Lucie County. They have a state-of-the-art EOC that is just amazing.
Okay. Did you have something to add to that?
You might want to have an independent body look at this structure to make sure it's compliant with all code, including ADA. You're required to have a handicap ramp out here. It's got to be a minimum of 44 inches wide. I don't think we have 44 inches between these columns that grade down from out here, so that might be a thing. So you've got to do diligence to make sure the structure meets all access. Handicap, ADA compliance is not only for the person that comes in here, it's for the employees that work in here.
Or
So.
will the
you know,
bathrooms seem to be ADA compliant?
Right, well, I was just saying.
Yeah,
you-
I understand that.
That's a
You're
consideration.
correct.
Now, these are all finer strokes, and we have to do that. I don't know whether the committee needs to be concerned with fine strokes or look at the broader strokes to make a recommendation. So that's something y'all get to decide.
All right, let me see if I can summarize what the committee has said, because you voiced many of my concerns and comments, so I don't think I need to say anything additionally. But it seems to me, and you guys correct me, but we're saying one, additional due diligence in researching the building itself, the physical structure, if it's code compliant, if it has any deficiencies. And again, I'm not talking about appraisal, I'm talking about, we're talking at the GC. And we have so many people in our community who are well qualified and can refer us to something, but there's additional due diligence required in the physical, reviewing the building physically.
And that could be a point, that could be a point of your recommendation. You know,
Right.
we recommend follow with these conditions.
Correct.
these
Um,
points.
Another question was, what will the county be willing to do? And it seems part of the package is we need to know what the county, before we can even make a recommendation. I realize you're saying you need to present something to the county. Well, many people have worked for the county and it's a give and take. And I don't see any problem with the town saying we're interested, county, but what can you do for us to make us go forward with this? So there's information, the county, we need to know what the county is willing to do. There was comments made about additional land, leasing, purchasing, so what the county is willing to do needs to be discussed. It seems premature, what I'm hearing everyone is saying, it seems premature. We cannot make a recommendation to go forward with this, is what I'm hearing.
We don't have all the data.
We don't have that.
Okay, we do not have.
I think we can make a recommendation that it looks really interesting,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that
To pursue.
to pursue the collection of this data
Right,
so
we're
that
not
we can
at
make
a
an
motion yet,
intelligent
we're just
decision.
talking
Yeah.
here, we're just talking, we're not making motions yet. I find, my personal comment is that, yes, we answer to the town people. We answer to, the town council, and advising them how to spend other people's money. And we're looking, which is our money also.
Right.
6:30, just, again, it's a buyer's market. 6:30 seems high. There was another number put on the table as a purchase. There seems to be other options besides the lease option, which when you're paying $1,450, let's round it up to say if we were paying $2,000 a month, average it out over the years. If you're paying $2,000 a month for what, 1,000 square feet, was that 20?
29 square feet for 1574.
Okay, so it comes out to what per square foot? Just approximate, $20?
What are the calculator? 1574 divided by 9.
Okay, well, I was just doing around, I was just estimating, but what I'm saying is, we have, Mr. Harris made some good comments about even if we already expanding the building, so it seems almost like there might be a purchase. No matter what we're talking about making changes to the building, which if you were renting, is that or not, those kind of things where we would ask volunteers from the community to come and do that. But can you make physical changes to a building when you're renting like that?
No.
Well, there's a lot of places that are built to suit. I mean, it's up to the owner whether or not they're willing to let you make certain modifications. From our perspective, we already planned to allow the town to make modifications. And we were trying to imagine your current facility. You raised a number of issues. I don't know the answers, you do.
Right.
And whether or not your current town council meeting space is ADA compliant and meets all of the hurricane codes and other codes that you're talking about, whether or not your current
In our
staff
shed?
space, is your staff space ADA compliant, meets all the security codes for your citizens and
We're
all those things,
optimistic
so.
that they will in the future. We're looking towards the future.
And then I also, just rough, and this is just tape measurement stuff, about 900, give or take a few feet, in your current town council, this tape measurement without the storage area, which is just drywall, as John pointed out, is about 950. So it's a little more space than you currently have, even if you didn't want to go through the cost of blowing out the front, blowing out the back. Taking this out would give you, you already have more space, you'd have that much more space on top of it. Additionally, some of the space in the other facility, I know you've got the coffee set up in the back and some of the other things, all of that will be set up outside in the rain, where people can stand in the lobby and not out in the rain in the swamp. So I think I'm only sharing all that because I'm listening to conversation. I certainly appreciate and respect where the advisory committee is coming from. I just get concerned when it's an apples and pineapples comparison, and where the town currently resides, where your citizens currently go to meet with the council, where your staff currently goes, and where people come and meet with the town is, I've heard it, it's not my comments from the dais, it's unsafe, there's a lot of issues. So I appreciate the idea of the conversation and the due diligence, but I would suggest.
We are looking to, we're comparing, if you're looking for an improvement, we're discussing an improvement in general, and as was brought up, doing a comparison side by side. We're not looking at saying, okay, just keep as, one of the options is always do nothing. One of the options is do nothing. The other option is, if you're going to do something, well, let's look at A and B. Let's do compare apples to apples. So you've brought this discussion forward, and now we're saying, okay, let's look at this building versus doing something else. That was the discussion I heard here. And again, do nothing is your pineapple, as you refer to it.
Right, and the other thought about the county, I mean, I don't think there's anything that prevents the town from going to the county on their own and saying we're interested in buying a building, but I've done some background work, and I believe that what would be palatable is a deal with caveats, that you will decide to do what you're going to decide to do. But if this really looks like a good opportunity, I would caution not to carry this out indefinitely and not to take some actions that can kill this transaction dead on arrival. Because if you're going to go through some of your due diligence and the expense and time of the town and the taxpayers' money, I think that we should have some meeting in the minds along the way. We can always look at how much the electric bill is, the water bill is, put the ADA compliance space in the front. But, I mean, those things, in terms of whether or not you would look at this facility as an opportunity for your townspeople, for your town, as a gentleman so eloquently said about, what this is for your community. I would just say, because my board may say, if this thing's going to drag on for 6 months, let's figure out what else we're going to do. And you're going to spend $10,000 on two appraisals, and how much will the railing cost, and what's the square footage, and what's the building of the road going to be, and that's all. You deserve to be able to do that, and that's important. But again, I want you to consider what a typical transaction would look like. You go in, it looks like what we want. If there's caveats to the agreement, there's caveats to the agreement. You make an offer. We know that there's seriousness here. We go through some expense on our side. You go through expense on your side. If we can eliminate the caveats, there's a deal.
I think, I appreciate this conversation. I think this conversation belongs to you and town management with the direction, instruction from the council. So as an advisory board, I have several things I want to make sure that Mark and Bill put it and have something for us to digest further. Number one, we need a cost-benefit analysis that is inclusive of all the items, including like how much rent we are paying right now.
And how long is that lease?
Yeah.
I mean, if we've got a lease over there,
Yeah.
Month.
okay, well, I mean,
Also, the potential rental income from the tenant from in here that could offset some of our costs. We need to have that. What is our budget situation, cash flow situation? Can we afford doing it?
yeah, excuse me for 1 second, do we have $160,000 to put down on it? If we were gonna do a third,
Well,
do
then
we
we
have
not be
160,000?
May not be 60. That,
Do we have that? I mean, that's just straight out, that amount of cash.
so the cash flow analysis is important because that will determine how much we can afford. That will be part of negotiation with them.
Whether it's a rental or a purchase,
Exactly,
yes.
yeah.
Okay.
I think the gentleman wants to know all of are we interested or not? And I mean, that's the one point. And then after that, then we talk about ourselves without you having to listen to all our
Mr.
issues.
Chief,
Yes, we
I have the
are.
floor.
Okay, Mr. Chu.
I have the floor. I think eventually we'll get to that point. I think it's important right now to see what we have in our pocket. Okay? How much money we could come up with back to the same concept. I want to see the cash flow analysis. How much we could afford. Okay? And then that will be part of negotiation. If we could afford 450, pay it right off today. If we can do it, good deal. With all the other costs, then do it. If no, in the next 10 years, I mean, it's very hypothetical, but we like to see
Financial scenarios.
the cash
Well,
flow.
that's the question I was asking.
Yeah, the cash flow.
So,
May I ask, Madam Chair, I mean, with due respect, and that's based on public information, I gotta believe that the gentleman can answer that right this minute, how much cash is in reserve, how much revenue comes in every year. I mean, we're in the budget conversation right now.
Well, because we have other commitment also, like other capital improvement projects, like.
Well,
Yeah,
now you're talking the classic public policy question, where are you gonna put your money? That's all, a little
That's
bit
a different
different.
question.
Yeah.
What are the computer? But anyway, I want to finish it. What are the annual maintenance costs? The cost repeated that we have to pay out. This gentleman talked about the maintenance outside, utility, water bills, the maintenance for the park, how we will use it.
The maintenance for the park would be the county.
Okay,
Oh, we don't do the park maintenance.
okay, we
Well,
use
but
it.
that is a good question, though. If we were to go to the county and say,
Can we use it?
can we have the
Can we
park,
take it
what
over?
would it cost, what
Yeah.
would the cost be?
And I think, like I said, if we get this building, what are the benefits? We can see a lot. Keith
Yeah.
said a
You
lot of good
want a
things.
pro and a con to
Yes.
this. A cost analysis, with a
Cost
pro and
benefit
a con.
analysis, I keep repeating, cost benefit analysis. These are the benefits. I'm not finished the cost yet. The maintenance cost, and also how much space we really need. And if this is what we need, I think we need to pursue that. What is our expectation for the next 5-10 years, the growth rate? And now, Southern is being developed, and do we really need it? Looks like we need it. I think those have to be in the picture so that people can see it. Yes, we do need more space. Another benefit is that we're going to have our own equity, rather than paying rent now. We get a much bigger parking lot. It's very accessible.
What about the flooding?
Uh,
We checked the flooding.
Yeah, well, that's part of the due
Does the
diligence.
parking lot flush?
Still,
I don't know.
Yeah,
I
it's
say,
floods.
I
This
say
baby
this whole
floods.
area floods. Get an afternoon rain and I have trouble driving
The
out.
water district has a lot of fill they're looking to put someplace.
And then also, the other thing we talk about is that we have problem with people breaking into our current facility. All those things is a.
Yeah, security.
The security issue, the hurricane issue, the access issue. I think there are a lot of benefit having this location. At the same time, we need to know how much does it cost us now or in the next 5 years. If we want to pay out in the next 3 years, how can we do that? Those are needed before a diligent comment could be made.
okay, so what I think, again, just to summarize, it's Mr. Burns, right?
Yes.
You want to get a feel, you have to answer your board what the feel is. What I'm hearing is, we're not looking to be pressured to make a decision in less than 24 hours. To us, it's less than 24 hours or less than a week, really. This was just presented. These people don't attend town council meetings. This is the first they've heard of it, some of them, right?
I
would
Right.
say
a couple of months probably.
90 minutes ago.
Okay, so it is an interesting proposition. It is
Correct.
something we're asking the
Very
management to
In
look
fact, it's
at
very
seriously.
attractive.
Okay, I think the 630 price shocks all of us, but we're looking at rent or the 4 or the lower price. What we're saying is, you were asking us tonight to make a decision to go forward to approve this amount? Is that what you were asking us to do?
No, ma'am, we're asking you to provide input to council, it doesn't mean.
Okay,
that we
input
have
to
see
council means we need additional information to review this project,
That's
correct?
right.
Is what I'm
Yeah,
hearing?
that's,
correct?
I just mentioned, I just read through my
Does
notes.
that need to be a motion?
That's why I just wanna make sure we're all hearing this, I'm hearing everyone.
That we're interested, we'd like to pursue it, but we need additional information. That's the bottom line.
And can we afford it? In other words,
And cost analysis is
Yeah.
part of the additional
Right.
information.
Okay, Mr.
Can we
Underwood.
afford it?
right.
Just trying to get some clarity in the discussion. This is what I think I heard. We like the lesser price,
Well, wouldn't you?
and even a little bit less, maybe.
I would like.
I don't think we go lower than 480, so let's get that on the public
That's,
record.
that's.
That was a
fine.
low death
That-
number.
That's fine. And I think I heard you say, well, before you really can do anything, you would like an appraisal. So I would think that maybe that ought to go ahead and go forward. I believe we've received quotes to do appraisals, and
But
they're,
I think even before the appraisal, did we not say we wanted to have a GC come in and give us a feel for the
I
building's
think a
quality?
GC
Well, you
looking
can
at the
do some of
building
this
and the
parallel.
land.
Okay.
I don't know that you, the other question I had, which is for,
And that would be before the appraisal. I think the GC should
Yeah.
come in before we even ask for an appraisal to tell us the quality of this
If it's
building.
structurally sound,
Yeah.
will it, you know, does it have any structural
is
issues?
there a specific
Due
timeline
diligence.
Is it necessary?
is there a specific timeline that's?
Built in 2010 under county code, it's easy to get the code.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Structural
It's
sound.
not that it's built 30 years old that you need to.
Never, you all, you,
Right.
Of course, you need to look at it.
And since it's on
but
county
not-
land, this was under very heavy scrutiny, I can just tell
I
you.
would think you would have a construction engineer take a look.
yes.
That could be done simultaneously as you're doing an appraisal.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a timeline that the chamber has. Are they,
Well, they said no more than 6 months. I heard Guy, they
Well,
don't want it more than 6
Well,
months.
I totally respect the fact that the ladies and gentlemen are just now seeing this, some of them for the first time, recognize that we started this now 3 council meetings ago. And
I'm just trying to get clarity.
so I'm where you are. I have to go, that 6 months, by the way, was not my statement. If you look back on the minutes, it was somebody else made the statement. So I did not get direction from my board that there was 6 months. I got
Oh, I
direction from
got
my
the-
board that
Yeah.
we're gonna execute our 2015 strategic plan, and being more central to our customers is part of that plan. So we will do something with this building before January 2015. And if it takes 90 days to put together a transaction, then that transaction has to begin now. Again, if the caveats don't come to fruition, we all know there's no deal. But it's create the transaction, walk through the due diligence. So
your
we all know there's a
timeline-
deadline.
Your timeline is December 31.
December 31 to basically close, not to find out if you're interested or not.
Well, I think the issue is they have to take a recommendation to the council. Does that recommendation get a structural engineering, take a look, get 2 appraisals, get all that done? We know that we've got roughly $1.8 million in general fund, unreserved fund balance.
Would this not be considered a capital improvement?
It is considered a capital. That is correct.
And we are in the middle of the budget.
And when is our lease agreement up? With,
It's month
It's
to
a
month.
month-to-month.
That's a month-to-month.
so that, I mean, if we
That's-
canceled it
that's
2 months in, there would be no issue with it.
Well, I think it actually is 4 months.
We have to give him 4 months notice.
4 months notice.
Which would be fine with us, because we would need time to move. If we knew the deal was closed and we needed 4 months, we work back the number for 4
With
months.
regard
Okay,
to the
let's-
purchase, you would probably want to recommend that if you were going to purchase or have any kind of a long-term lease, that the contract is contingent upon the county deeding over the land.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
I
At
mean,
least the one.
And that's part of the contract. They sign off and say yes or no. And if the county says, no, we're not going to give it to you, well, the deal's over.
Right.
Yeah, but the cost to rent is a great increase to our.
It's
budget.
huge. It's huge. We're not paying that much right now. I think we're supposed to get another room, the rent would go up with the other room.
And the college is coming, they'll have space that, you know,
we could use if we needed to.
That all those things exist.
Okay.
So I think what I heard was you would like the council to move forward and perhaps get the structural engineer on board, get the appraisals going, and come back to you as quickly as possible after that. And we have numbers, we can do he can give us the rental numbers. It's really not, the benefit is intangible. I mean, there's not a cost, it's a cost.
Okay, but I want to be clear, we're not saying I'm not saying.
You support, but if you're going to
We're
look
saying
at
we
it,
need, yeah, right, we're saying to make an informed decision, this is what needs to be done.
I would think you would maybe want that.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I did hear the gentleman ask about a timeline, which I would definitely need to at least have that. So if we're not positive, we're not sure, we're gonna have to hold, then at least a timeline that I know what we're gonna be doing.
And just so I can understand your board's urgency, what is your board's urgency?
We merged 2 years ago with the Lake Worth Chamber.
Right.
We should have become more, better positioned geographically to service the entire footprint.
Right.
And it's going to happen January 1st.
Okay, so in other words, you're saying you're moving January 1st.
I'm saying that we will execute our new strategic plan January 1st, and part of that is being geographically positioned to service the entire footprint. So we are either going to find a renter or buyer with Loxahatchee Groves, or we will go out on the open market to find a renter or buyer and go to the county with the same proposal in hand.
So, and there's no guarantee that you would have this place rented out or sold by that, you'd just be attempting to.
That's right, but that's why I was stressing, and I'm being as cautious for the town and the taxpayers as I am for myself, which is if it's all up in the air, it sounds nice, let's go spend the money on a structural engineer, let's go get this proposal, I don't know the exact cost, we'll say it's about $2,000, you probably got quotes on proposals. There's not too many large appraisals to do commercial real estate that I think have the reputation. This is Anderson Carr. And then, so this proposal just happened, so you can go get another one from Anderson Carr, and they're gonna say, oh, we were just at the building. And, so I'm just simply suggesting, if it's just all kind of left up in the air tomorrow night, then you're gonna go through $10,000 of due diligence expense while we're thinking about who else can take this deal. So I'm simply saying, create a transactional environment that says we have to do these things to make ourselves feel good that this is a deal we want. But if these things all happen, if the appraisal comes in at the right amount, if the county says they'll deed the land, we're moving forward with the transaction. Otherwise, it's just we kind of like it, we'll see what happens. And the gentleman said you have $1.8 million in the general fund. I looked at the money over the last couple of years in the public record. Certainly, even with capital improvements that I heard discussed at the last 3 meetings, you have cash flow. If the millage goes up, as the gentleman pointed out, you have another $80,000 in cash flow.
We may have cash flow now, but if we spend this money, if we're quick to jump on it, we may not have it in the future. Okay.
Well, 480 out of 1.8 million, it sounded like.
Okay, may I ask that we can finish the presentation, perhaps we can have a discussion among ourselves?
Fine with me.
So you're closing it to the public? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm closing.
Oh,
You're
you want me
finished
to
with your
finish talking?
presentation.
Great.
Well, I think his presentation.
Yeah, I was just simply
Yeah, no, I know
responding
it
to
has, but, okay, did you have one more question? That's what I'm
I
saying.
don't think we have any more questions.
Okay.
I think it would be, I don't want you to be misled that we have went from 8, you're gonna go up there and tell you, okay, we check it up to 700 or something. So I think it would be fair that we just have some discussion. I think your project is very interesting. I think we just need some time to digest it with the information coming forward. We know you have a timeline, you do have a timeline too. So I don't think we should just either shut it off or move forward. I think it's, it's too mature.
I was simply asking with respect, you decide yourselves what you want to accomplish and create a timeline, let me know what that timeline is.
Yeah, I think it's fair.
But having a defined timeline, I think for everybody is important.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, we really don't have anything.
Well, you've just given us a timeline.
Well, but I'm hearing that you're not willing to ask the council to create that same timeline, because it could take a week or 3 months for you to get appraisals, unless you say, we recommend that we get appraisals by X date, structural engineer, if that's what you want to spend the money on, by X date, and so that I can go back to the board and say, they're serious, they're gonna go out and get 2 appraisals, they're gonna get a structural engineer, the gentleman who was talking about his, considerable knowledge, and he offered his services, whatever that is, to at least suggest there's a timeline. If there's no timeline, then they're gonna say, there's not really
So
any
you're
interest.
telling us the feedback you need.
I think one point the chair made too, and it's a good point, and Mr. Burns indicated they would certainly consider it, is when you start talking the 480, you can do it in terms of 2 or 3 payments, balloon payments.
Yes.
Right.
So when you get a little concerned about dollar amounts, you can do it that way. And don't forget, we've been giving the district $150,000 every year, just to point out, so.
I have not forgotten, sir, I have not forgotten.
Okay,
That's
well, wanted to get that on the record.
Not forgotten that at all, sir. So what, you have another question?
Yeah, not a
for me?
question, I just want to make a statement. You're working on your timeline because of the board, Chamber of Commerce Board. Conversely so, we're working for 3,250 citizens, or 1,200 households. So we've got to answer to them if they don't like our recommendation. So we've got, to be sure that we've got all that I's dotted and T's crossed and have looked at every aspect of it so that we can have concrete proof that we've got money to be able to pay for it. And that's the bottom line. We've got to be able to afford it, and it's a lovely place. Beautiful. I mean, no doubt about it. I see all kinds of potential. But at the same time, where the tire hits the road is what this board's responsible for.
I respect it, I'm just asking, requesting that
Yeah.
whatever it is you want to do and however long that's going to take, is you give a date certain that we can all work towards.
Sure.
That's all I'm requesting.
That's correct.
Did you have one question for him?
Yes. I have heard and have not confirmed that this property can only be sold to nonprofit organizations or municipalities. Is there any other entity that can be allowed to purchase the structure other than those 2?
Actually, the lease itself is a matter of public record, and there's no language in there about that at all. What it says is whether it's a lease or a sale, we must go to the county for approval.
Okay.
So there weren't any caveats in terms of who can get it, how they can get it. We believed that the best opportunity would be to bring Loxahatchee Groves for everybody. Win for the citizens, win for the groves, win for the county, and everybody said, this is a good thing for the people. This is a pretty easy decision. So that was why we took this approach.
I thank you for that answer, because there has been, of course, when you have 3,000 people, there's usually 4,000 different opinions. And it needs to be clear what we're talking about and what opportunities we have and what challenges we have and what we can lose not being efficient with our time and our energy,
Okay.
not including our money.
Okay, so I thank you for your
Thank
presentation.
you.
Thank you.
All the time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I was just trying to get clarity, Madam Chair.
Oh, no, I appreciate it. So you want to recap it one last time, what you think you heard?
What I thought I heard was that you're not real convinced on the rent price. You like the purchase option a little better, whether it's a upfront or 3-year, but a purchase option. I heard that you want the appraisals. You have a tentative timeline by them, and so the issue is what timeline can you meet. As far as the purchase contract, if you got to that point at all, you would just put it into the contract that it's contingent upon the county providing more than 1.32 acres, maybe 1.75, a little, maybe some extra parking. But you have a contingency in there for that. In the meantime, and we could perhaps get someone that's in the construction industry to tell us what a building like this would cost, or any building. This building would probably last the town for a number of years, like 15 or 20. Depends on how fast the town grows. If it grows as fast as it has, it'll last 15 or 20. We've got a lot of effort. If I were recommending, then I would advise that you recommend that you would, if you do, you prefer a purchase price over a lease or with an option. You prefer to have engineering, structural inspections, and you want the appraisals done and if it were to go forward with the contingency on the land. Because and if that doesn't work, then it just doesn't work, that's fine. Those are the items I think I heard. And that would be what you would present to the council.
I think Bill covered most of them, except that he had mentioned the cost benefit analysis.
Well, there's no real benefit. I mean,
It's a capital improvement, we have equity is the benefit, you mentioned briefly.
right.
What are the savings? What are the costs?
Well, there's not gonna be any.
We're saving the rent
Well,
on the other.
yeah, we do.
You're just not gonna pay rent.
Can you
for the
still
next
do analysis,
20 years.
just people knowing, we're saving the rent,
Right, that's it.
more secure,
Increase in rent, future
yeah,
rents.
and
Well,
the more
Income
space.
potential.
But secure is an intangible, parking is an
Oh, can you put
intangible.
those into, when, you don't have to quantify that, I
I
appreciate
know.
that, because you have more experience, you run, other city before, I think it's easier for your perspective. Right now, we're just thinking it like real loud, that compared to,
Well, we have a town council meeting tomorrow night. My concern is we have a town council meeting tomorrow night. Am I gonna have to make a report tomorrow night?
yes. And also, the
Let us
cash
come
flow,
over.
Madam Chair, I think cash flow analysis is important because that will determine how much they may even come down, if we could pay them off. So I would appreciate if there is a cash flow analysis, that how much we can afford and what does the town manager recommend us to finance this situation? Pay it in 3 years?
Cost benefit analysis.
Yeah, I like to see that.
It's clear.
I like to see that. I really like to see that. Please don't say that there's no benefit. We have a much bigger parking lot. That's a benefit. It's much cleaner.
I understand.
It's not on a dirt paving.
I'm just
I mean-
saying, it's an intangible, there's
Well,
lots of
no.
intangible benefits.
No, you
Well,
know,
there's income
no,
potential too,
Bill,
which we certainly don't
Bill,
have in any of our
My
present
right
plans.
now, I have to replace 4 shops within 2 years, just
Excuse
because
me,
of driving on
excuse
D road.
Excuse me, Carla, and then.
We'll provide that. for you.
Good, good. I want to put on record. I want to make sure that we can see
The other
it. Please
thing,
don't run away.
the other thing about renting it out, we are a local government. I don't know how that would work with our official records in the same building and just allowing people, like, they're very gracious and they allow us to come use their room at night. And I know that landowners associations meet here in the evenings. I don't know how that would work with a local government sitting there and all of our public records in the same facility.
That would be a
Maybe
concern.
we would allow it during the daytime when staff is here,
Yeah.
in the building.
Or some
But-
kind of increased security on that side of the
Well, I
building.
think even at night, if we were gonna, if the town were gonna do that, it's gonna be a little more costly for these folks, because one option could always be to go ahead and have a staff member be here, and they're gonna pay that cost.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely, there'll be a, make sure
Well,
it's.
that's
It'd be
still.
nominal cost, but
But it's
nevertheless.
still a security issue, then you have an employee. I think perhaps what in your cost benefit analysis, the potential rental income is something that should be taken out. You know, do it with and without, because it may not be feasible.
Exactly. Or if you think that cannot be achieved, don't put it in. But something like the cost saving, that we don't have to rent that facility, that's a plus. So I think that's fair.
Yeah, we
And
can
also,
take that out of the equation.
Important is that what is the cash flow that we can anticipate?
Phil?
I think, well, that is true, and like you said, we are a town, we are not a business that's gonna be here or maybe gone tomorrow, or 5 or 10 years. We're gonna be
Unless
here
the
100
governor
years, maybe
says
more.
so.
You know, we're gonna be here long term. And this is an opportunity that we, as a finance committee board, it is incumbent upon you all to think how well to spend the money, not unnecessarily. On the other hand, you need to spend your money efficiently so that if there's a good deal, you all need to look at it. So that's part of your job too, not just saving money and not spending money, but it's also by, if you're going to buy up or have the same place 5 or 10 years down the road, it'll cost us more money. I mean, that's something that we have to think about. We keep saying saving money, not spending money. On the other hand, you have to think, if you were buying a house, if you see a good deal, you need a house anyway. You're going to have children, you're going to have kids. You're not going to stay in a one-bedroom, apartment for how long? So that's something that you'll need to think about. And for the house, and regarding income, I think that should be mitigating, and that's definitely is in the cost.
All right, so in front of the town council tomorrow night,
We're demanding the following.
That recommendation would probably follow the presentation, because you're
so
not
he's
on
doing a
the,
presentation.
you're not on the agenda like your normal report, but they're looking for you to give them some feedback tomorrow night.
Okay, and let's do the quick summary here of the feedback then.
He has a point.
Because we don't need the motion. We are, excuse me, yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Madam Chair.
Wait till I come to your meeting.
Wednesday night, 7 o'clock in the little room.
Go ahead. Last time.
Recommendation, broad strokes. Consider the straight out purchase of 480 versus the lease option at 630. Take it from there.
Are you listening to me?
Yeah.
Chatty cat? Could you repeat that?
A simple recommendation, not considering all the fine strokes. Recommend the 480 buyout versus the 630 lease option. You've made a recommendation. The council's gonna do whatever they want to because they can be thinking in the best interest of the community. You have done your work, you've made a recommendation based on what you have been given tonight.
Based on the county,
Contingent,
all of
Contingent.
this contingency.
Right, based on the contingency on the land.
that's a
Sure.
big contingency.
The only thing I would say about talking to the county about the property, donating the 1.32
Everything, the whole thing.
Including the
Shouldn't
park.
ask for too much.
Yes,
I didn't say too much, did I?
No, but I'm just saying,
yes.
because you ask for too much, then the county's gonna say, well, what are you gonna give us in return?
oh, no, we don't have to give the county anything. We are being
Okay,
burdened by
that's-
development.
that's
Do
what
not
I-
even go there with me.
That's-
The county owes us.
Okay,
You know where I'm gonna be going.
that's fine,
That's right.
but if we
Can't
go,
be
if
started.
we go for too much, they may want,
No, the
too
county
much
owes
in
us.
return.
Well, you do.
So
know-
I would just go walk on eggshells when we ask for that 1.3.
No, I would go for more and come back.
10.32 acres,
Yeah,
the 10.3 acres.
You go 1.75 and come back.
yeah, okay.
At a minimum, we would like this, if they'd like to give us more, we're happy to
Well,
consider it.
you might need it for additional parking,
This-
outbuildings,
We're happy to
storage.
consider.
Okay.
This is a
Fine.
procedural opinion that you will be, procedural recommendation. It's to take it a little step further, but it's giving some confidence to the seller, and it's giving the town the opportunity to look even closer at the two options. The better option is the 280, the 480.
Yeah, it's good.
Do I hear 165?
Yes,
No, the 480.
Sweetie, done.
I got my checkbook right here.
Take the furniture.
300, we get the furniture?
Leave extra light bulbs.
Oh, I can't, it's be public record.
The 480
I
slip.
can't do that, it's town council's decision. A nice
245,
try.
245, 245? Number one.
Okay,
The
okay.
480,
All right.
the 480 is
So
a
you may
good
want to
recommendation.
recommend go with a
Yes.
fixed price.
He'll do his presentation. We strongly advise considering a straight-out fixed price purchase,
Right.
to consider fixed price purchase, negotiate for a lower price.
Well,
For-
the issue is, you do the appraisals, you're prohibited by statute from exceeding the average of the two.
Right, but we can go lower.
You can always go low.
Yes, we can, so if the
They may
appraisals are
not,
high,
but you
it
can.
doesn't matter, we can go lower, we work for the people. Okay. We take it seriously. 400,
So you want to do the appraisal, you want to recommend the appraisals, you want to recommend a structural engineer to take a look, make sure it's built well, it's got ADA compliant, which I'm fairly confident probably is in some fashion.
well, we can't assume anything, so structural engineer. But then also, you know, and the town council, of course, add their concerns and comparisons. But as far as this specific property, this is what we are suggesting, if I keep it. Or should I say regarding the town hall issue? How do we address that?
No.
This is a town hall alternative.
This is a town hall alternative.
So as one of the town hall alternatives, they can consider the purchase, a fixed price purchase of this with appraisal, proper appraisals and structural and engineering analysis,
Before they go any further.
contingent upon the county deeding the land to us.
Yes.
Oh,
1.75.
Or a 99 lease for $1. 99-year lease for $1.
I'd make them give it to you.
I want the land.
We want
I can
the
tell you people who lost land in their families
99-year
after
leases
99
can
years.
be revoked.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then they can make their decision.
What I will do is refine this with Perla, I will check in with Perla to make sure my verbiage is not offensive, is correct. Again, we don't need a motion on this, this is just, I'll refine it with her.
Is that, I presume that that's clarity and you have the instruction and the floor.
That's what I'm,
I think we're,
That's
all in
fine.
agreement, yeah.
now, my question though was, do we need a motion to approve this, or we're just fine with clarity?
A motion would not hurt.
Folks, wake up.
I would be in support of the motion, and I'd urge a motion,
Right.
because then you have
A motion
either a 5-0
for
vote or
A motion
4-1,
to approve the purchase
all
the
those things.
suggestion.
with all the considerations that we've laid out,
Not to approve the purchase, no.
but
No.
to pursue the purchase
Pursue.
for 440 with the considerations that we've laid out.
No.
480.
I
yeah.
love her
No,
negotiation
440.
skills.
Did I go with the 280 again? Did I say that? Sorry. Okay.
440 is even better.
Approve it for the approve pursuing it for the 480 with all of the considerations that we've laid out.
I don't think 480 is fixed. I think it's negotiable. I thought it was. I mean,
Yeah, we-
499 is
no,
negotiable.
No, ain't even the furniture.
I don't think we should set, I think we
Set
should.
an
There
amount?
was nothing
No.
wrong
I think we
with Mr. Harris's observation, what would it cost to do something alternative? I don't have a problem with that. That's not a bad idea at all. What's it real, I mean,
It'll come out
this
ahead.
is $121 a square foot roughly at the 480. That's not unreasonable.
No.
With impact glass windows, it's very,
I understand, but it's not, it would not be unreasonable to recommend that council get somebody to tell you, if you were gonna build a 3950 today, what would that cost be?
Okay.
And also, I think we may want to negotiate with the chamber for those furniture and fixture, if they are not planning, if
Okay,
they don't use, they plan to sell, or they want to unload.
all right, that's down the
They
road.
will give
Yeah,
us
let's get past this.
We do need desk storage.
Okay, all right, look, so do we have a motion? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, and what is it? Because I was trying to make it.
Oh,
No, I was trying to, but I didn't get the words right, so.
Pearl's gonna read it back.
The motion on the table right now is to authorize the town council to pursue
No,
the outright purchase
Recommend,
with the considerations that were laid out, which was the contingency, the county donate the land, do the 2 appraisals, have a structural engineer come in and look at the building.
Okay.
That's what
And-
we've got so
And
far.
do his cost analysis.
And the alternative cost analysis, wherever you put it.
It's a recommendation, not a.
Okay,
So
but we
I
are not,
made that motion,
Right, but
what
we-
she just said.
but let me ask you this, do we need to include the price in there, because we're not, the 6,
No, I would not necessarily.
We
But
just
if
said
you were
two.
going to propose something, you would propose the purchase over a lease with an option to purchase. And the only one I did not hear about was a lease purchase.
No,
no, this is too expensive for
no.
this. Madam Chair, I think that the word further used to authorize, I would change it to recommend the council to consider.
Well, we said just to pursue, oh, okay,
You said authorize,
Approve. Consideration.
recommend the council to consider pursuing this purchase to be negotiated.
yeah, but I would insist on noting that we felt the 630 was excessively high. I feel that is necessary
I
to
don't
say.
think you're gonna bring it up.
That is, he could bring out whatever he wants, he's the seller, we're the buy, we would be the buyer.
And that
So the
continues.
motion would be for the council to consider pursuing their outright purchase with all the considerations we've laid out tonight.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I
With
think
Is
the
that-
that-
considerations of 1.75 acres.
Or
Yes. Yeah, oh, that's
include
it.
just
Well, is that
the
in there or not?
contingency,
She didn't read
you
it
want,
last
you
time.
want that number in?
I think so.
Or contingency for the county to deed a,
I think that
This-
Of at
It's
least,
all recommendation.
One
At
point
least
seven.
1.7.
They don't have
And
to
they-
do any
you,
other than.
we made the,
That's their-
everyone made discussion if it were just leasing land, no one was interested in buying the building, now you're
No,
saying.
no, to deed at least
Oh,
1.75.
oh, minimum, okay.
Deed a minimum of
Okay, I thought you said
1.75.
lease.
No,
of
not
at
least.
least, of at least 1.75 acres.
Okay.
I want y'all to know that this is not unusual for the county to do things like that with local governments.
Yeah.
They do it all over Palm Beach County.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
that's why if they want to, I don't want to limit us, if they want to give
right,
us
if they want to
more.
give us more of the part, we'll take it.
Can I just ask a question about the number, please? Yeah, about the land amount number? I know 1.32 is what the town manager had said for the current leased space.
right.
I don't know the answer to this. I don't think any of us know what the additional front grass and back grass is, how much of that is part of the 132. And I'm just concerned if you make that a hard number and the council latches onto it,
Okay,
and it includes part of that park,
3 acres.
and you don't want to have to pay for maintaining that park, because I heard it's an astronomical amount of money.
Yes,
I'm just
Well,
concerned if you
because
put a
it's a county
fixed hard
rates.
number,
I agree.
and that fixed hard number includes that park, you've actually asked for something, and you're gonna fight for something that you may not want. So I'm very concerned about you going past the 1.32 without knowing that you're gonna be taking over that park as
No,
well.
we're not gonna take
No,
over
we're not
the
taking the
park.
maintenance of the park.
Yeah, we won't take the maintenance.
Unenforceable.
If we took the park, that piece, they could use it as a park.
If we take the park, we're gonna get rid of the
Right.
football
Yeah, we
field
will
and the
just-
baseball
don't worry
field.
about it.
This
We'll
is
figure it
what
out.
we Satisfy the state, town council resolution 2007-.
We've got other committees working on things, so who knows what they'll want. All right, now, I think we've gone on long enough on this. So, is there the motion on the floor?
I'll second.
The soccer field, the baseball field.
Yeah, I made the motion, he's seconding.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Don't
Thank
take
you.
it just yet.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
time.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yes. All right, we had a lengthy discussion. Now, what I'd like to suggest, and I had discussed this with Carla earlier, we have a new format to our financials, and everyone will look at that. And I think it's something, it's a slight change, also we weren't expecting to meet. I wanted to suggest that, if appropriate, we take the time to review the financials and come back at the next meeting and approve them. Is that acceptable to do?
It is for us.
No, I mean, but this is a new format, we have a new member. weren't planning on meeting.
At the next meeting, however, Madam Chair, you'll be having the presentations made.
Oh, that's right.
The October 27th meeting,
Of the software.
Oh, the
October 27th?
Right, but what I,
27th or the 4th?
7th.
27.
27th.
of October.
And it's
So the
6
4th is
o'clock.
But what I wanted to ask is, instead of having, because we already have this information, it does not need to be printed in the new agenda, does it? We can simply refer to our old
That would be fun.
agendas,
Bring them.
right? Remember to bring your,
And the meeting's at 6
Or-
o'clock.
At 6 o'clock, and we're providing dinner.
And that's on the 27th?
providing dinner up.
We are bringing in food because y'all are gonna do, watch the 3 presentations. The first presentation starts at 6:15 or 6:30.
And it's
Six.
here as well?
And so we'll have food here for the committee members.
Oh, nice. We could share if we choose.
I'm sure we'll have enough to have our 2 audience members.
Oh, my.
I think at this rate, we are like a
Okay,
substitute.
just
So
I would like,
Don't bring your families.
Bill, do we need a motion here to postpone this
Yes,
to the
October 27th.
Table the
The approval of
Table.
financials.
Table.
table the discussion and give everyone time to review it?
Yes.
Do we have a
I'll make
motion?
the motion that we table the July and August financials until the October 27th meeting.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Next, oh, motion to, closing comments. Mr. Chu. Keep it short.
Can I just ask, excuse me, what is your mission at the end of the meeting? Is it 9 o'clock? Is that, okay. Just checking.
Good meeting. Thank you.
Welcome, it was a good meeting and well done.
Thank you.
Mr. Ken Johnson.
I would like to thank and welcome our new attendee, and I think she's going to be an asset to this community, this committee, and glad you're here.
To answer your question, Anita, the mission actually is to keep, we let this gentleman go on for quite a bit tonight. Normally, this is a serious topic. I could have cut him off after half an hour. And you'll see that we do cut people off and send them on their way. We do, we're getting there.
I'm pretty sure he wasn't staying.
The goal is 9 o'clock only because when we're looking at information, we need to be on topic,
Right.
look at it, and get on to the next thing. It's numbers, it's finance.
I
And
appreciate
the
it.
town
I
council
appreciate it.
is the one that makes the management and town council are the ultimate warriors. We only advise.
Great. Do you need support tomorrow night? That's my next question, or would you prefer to?
No, everyone's welcome to come
Fine
to
with
the
that.
town
I'm just
council
asking.
meeting. I'm welcome to support the chuckling in the, oh, yeah, I know you're gonna be there. All right. Motion to adjourn?
I make a motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Done.
Stop raining.
And I'm sorry I let you go on so long. I do apologize. Right, that's what I do.
And the phone.
Okay, you can have this, you can keep this.
Well, and that's what I was not comfortable with. People starting to do it. I did not like that. You know, that is not.
You still have your mouse